Okay, so you're thinking about making a big move.
That's right.
A move abroad, no less.
Yeah,
I bet that could feel pretty overwhelming. Like, where do you even start?
absolutely.
So lucky for us, though, we've got this really thorough checklist that somebody put together
Right.
to kind of guide us through this whole process. And I think the most important parts,
Mm-hmm.
and then turn those into something that you can actually take action on. So
Yeah, that's right.
let's jump right in, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, so right out the gate, this checklist hits us with the pre-move essentials.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, the first bullet point is literally like start early. So like,
Yeah.
we get it, planning is important, but like, what does that really look like?
That's the big question, right? And it's way more than just like booking a flight and picking out where you're going to stay. Like we're talking about things like visas and, they're all different types of visas. Like you've got tourist visas, you've got work visas, you've got student visas.
Yeah.
There are even visas for people who are planning to get married abroad.
Right.
And they all have their own timelines and requirements.
Oh, yeah.
You really don't want to be like scrambling at the last minute trying to figure that stuff out.
No, definitely not. And speaking of things that you can easily forget, the checklist goes on to talk about import policies.
Oh, yeah.
What's the deal with those?
It's so easy to forget that different countries have different rules about what you can and can't bring in. Like you could be talking about certain foods,
Right.
certain medications, plants even.
Really?
Yeah. And then, on top of that, if you're thinking about like shipping a whole bunch of your belongings, you really need to understand those policies in advance or else it can cause a ton of hassle and you might end up paying a lot of fees.
Yeah, so basically don't pack your favorite salami without checking the rules first.
Exactly.
Good advice. Okay, so the checklist also goes on and on about these essential documents, and I'm thinking, okay, passport check. Got that.
Yeah, sure. Passport's important.
Yeah.
But
What else are we talking about here?
we're talking about going way beyond that. So think about like your birth certificate.
Oh, right.
If you're married, your marriage certificate.
Uh-huh.
Diplomas if you're moving for work or for school.
Okay.
And don't forget about things like medical records,
Right.
especially your vaccination history, because some countries are super strict about that.
You know, it's funny you mentioned the marriage certificate because I actually knew somebody who moved abroad with their spouse, and they totally forgot to bring their marriage license.
Oh, no.
And guess what? They needed it.
They needed it for residency.
For residency. And oh my gosh, it created this giant bureaucratic nightmare for them.
Yeah, you really don't want to be in that position.
No, it's all about anticipating those like, oops, I forgot that moments, right?
Okay.
Okay, speaking of things that can totally derail your plans, the checklist then goes on to talk about health and well-being.
Right.
And I mean, that makes sense when you're moving to a new place because there could be all these new health concerns, right?
Yeah, a new environment, new risks, right?
Yeah. So different regions have different health risks for sure.
Right.
Like let's say you're going somewhere tropical.
Uh-huh.
You might encounter diseases that aren't as common back home, like dengue fever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And depending on where you're going, you might need specific immunizations.
Oh, right.
Like, for example, a yellow fever vaccine is required to get into some countries.
So it's like that saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Exactly.
It really makes you realize that a visit to a travel doctor should be pretty high up there on your to-do list.
Absolutely.
What about pets, though?
Oh, right.
We can't forget about them, can we?
No, we can't leave our furry friends behind.
Exactly.
And honestly, they need just as much prep as we do.
I bet.
You got to make sure they've got all the required vaccinations.
Right.
And, don't underestimate the paperwork. Some countries require a lot of documentation.
Real.
Even quarantine periods. So,
Oh, my goodness.
yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So the earlier you start, the better. My cat's international travel plans are looking a little more complicated than I thought.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about visas, documents,
Yeah.
health. Now it's time to talk about the big one, finances.
Right.
This checklist gets into bank accounts and transferring money, which
Yeah.
can feel pretty daunting, I think.
It can be, but it's also one of those things that people often overlook.
Yeah.
One of the first things you should do is figure out if you even need a local bank account,
Oh?
because opening one in a new country can be tricky. Sometimes you need proof of residency.
Yeah.
You might need other documents, so
Uh-huh.
yeah. And then once you have an account, you got to figure out how to get your money there.
Oh, right.
Because there are all these different services for international money transfers, and they've all got their own fees and exchange rates. So
Oh.
it really pays to do your research and shop around.
Yeah. So it's not just about having enough money. It's about having access to that money once you're in a new place.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm guessing credit cards work a little differently abroad too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What should we know about that?
It's a good idea to check with your credit card company about international transaction fees.
Right.
And let them know that you're moving, because you don't want your card getting flagged for suspicious activity.
Right. That's happened to me on vacation before, and it was
Oh, no.
it was not a good time. So
Wow, fun.
definitely good advice. All right, so we've covered visas, documents, health, money matters. Are we missing anything? Feeling a little overwhelmed yet?
I mean, it is a lot.
We're almost there.
Almost there.
So this last part of the checklist actually feels a little bit more fun. It talks about maps and guidebooks.
Yeah.
I got to say, I love a good old-fashioned paper map.
Yeah, I mean, they might seem a little outdated in this age of smartphones, but trust me, having a physical map can be a lifesaver when your phone dies.
Oh, for sure.
Or when you don't have service.
Yes. Plus, there's something so satisfying about circling all the places you want to go.
Oh, yeah. And then guidebooks are also great for getting a feel for the local culture, finding little hidden gems.
Right.
Maybe learning a few basic phrases in the local language.
It's like a little preview of the adventure you're about to have.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that about covers it. We've officially deep dived into this moving abroad checklist.
We made it.
I feel like we've covered so much, but also like we've only just scratched the surface.
Absolutely. This checklist is a fantastic starting point.
Yeah.
But you really need to tailor it to your specific destination and your specific circumstances.
Right.
Every country has its own quirks, so
True.
research is key.
Couldn't agree more so. Before we wrap things up, I have one final thought for you to kind of ponder.
Okay.
Think about what you're most excited about with this whole moving abroad thing.
Okay.
Is it exploring new cultures?
Yeah.
Is it trying different foods? Is it learning a new language? Whatever it is.
Right.
What's one small step you can take today to kind of make that vision a reality?
I love that question, holding on to that excitement.
Yeah.
And taking those small steps, I think, can make the whole process feel less daunting.
Right.
And more like the incredible adventure it really is.
So, well said. Safe travels and enjoy every step of this exciting new chapter.
Have a good one.